here are a couple of tips for you when you start behind a barricade, or even if you're behind a port and you've got to be putting your hands on the barricade for the start or on either side of a port as an example. So today I'll cover a couple of tips, some things that you should think about when you're setting yourself up behind a barricade for a particular stage. Too many times I see a lot of shooters come up to the barricade and they place their hands on the X's as per the stage instruction, and they are actually got their feet further back than they really need to, and they're putting their weight on their fingertips. So you see here I'm leaning forward because what they're trying to do is get a lot of space between them and the wall so they can draw smoothly. Well, you don't want to be off balance. You want to be standing naturally as you always are in any type of start, whether there's a barricade or not in front of you. So arm's length is good enough. Just find out what that distance is. If you have to start with your palms on the X's, well, that's it. You start with your palms on the X's. If you're lucky enough and it doesn't say that palms have to be on the X's, but simply that you must be touching the X's with your hands, then just place your fingertips. Then you get a couple of extra inches further back from the barricade. Because again, there's a couple of issues here. If you're too close to the barricade, it makes it difficult for the draw, okay, because of the distance. But also, the closer you are to the barricade, the less room you have in terms of how far you can see around the barricade. The further back you are, you can actually push out a little further to the side and see further beyond the barricade to engage some of those deep targets. So, back to starting behind the barricade. I'm going to be touching the X's, so I'm arm's length away. Get my feet, my stance should be exactly the way it normally is. Now, if by chance you're a shorter person, and that means you've got shorter arms and you're closer to the barricade, what you can do is take a step back. Take a step back when the timer goes off to give you that distance and draw at the same time. So the timer goes off, beep, you take a step back. That gives you the distance that you need to safely draw your firearm and still be able to get around that barricade to engage those targets. So I hope those couple of tips about how to start or how to set up behind a barricade come in handy. Remember, you want to have a natural stance behind the barricade. It's just like any other start. Behind the barricade, standing naturally, relaxed, balanced. Should only be about arm's length away. Don't push your feet back any further so then all of a sudden you're leaning onto the barricade. That's not what you want. You just want to be arm's length away, palms on the X's, or just touching the X's with the tips of your fingers so that you can draw your gun and lean out and shoot easily on either side of the barricade.